All right, hello and welcome to Adventures in Lollygagging. I am Jeff, and we are playing Blades in the Dark tonight. This is our second session of it. We're actually going to be digging into the downtime rules for the first time, which is like its own separate like mini game system stuff. So we're going to dive into that. Very excited to see what the players have in store. We kind of can learn a little bit more about them, what they're doing, and then kind of recover based upon that opening score. So that was kind of fun. So for those of you who missed, I'll give it a little summary and we'll kind of talk about exactly what happened in the first score, and then we'll kind of deal with the ramifications of it and figure out what might be our next score to be. Time permitting, we might even start on it. So we'll see how it goes. So before we get started, other things we do here, we play 3 days a week. So we tend to stream on Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Saturdays for the foreseeable future will be our Blades in the Dark game. Fridays is our Delta Green Impossible Landscapes campaign. And Mondays, we alternate between Ultraviolet Grasslands and Alien RPG, which is from Free League Publishing. This coming Monday, we'll be doing Alien RPG. And you can catch all those games over at our YouTube channel. We keep track of everything there. And many of our old games, including recent ENnie award-winning games like Vaesen and Heart. Both of those are games that we played quite frequently over the past year. And they both just were announced as like winners of various awards. So I'm super excited and happy for them because they're freaking awesome games, and more people should be playing them. So yeah, and with that said, let's introduce characters. So shall we go over who you are again? Let's just kind of dive in really quickly. So Ashley, who are you playing? Tell us a little bit about your character.
So I'm playing Sethless Savoy. She's Akaros. Her previous occupation or background was she was a Leviathan hunter. Yeah.
Yeah, that
And
sounds right.
something we're gonna explore is my vice tonight. Um, she enjoys pleasure and dancing in clubs.
Yeah. Was she a raver? Like she does
Yeah.
the LSD and she goes to
Yeah.
raves. She's like she drops
Yeah.
some acid and just starts and that's how she casts and communicates with the spirits as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Tell us a little bit about what she looks like again. Like what's because in Blaze of the Dark you pick like a couple words that sort of
Oh,
describe your look. So
so
what are yours?
she tends to be swathed in silks, and she has a veil that covers the lower half of her face, and then just very large curly brown hair.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. All right, next up, we've got Long. Who are you?
Yeah, I'm playing Oliver Cobb, also known as the Pretender. He's the slide of the gutter, which is the background in trade.
Yeah.
Also Akaros.
Mm-hmm. So
And
Akaros is like the sort of where we're at, basically. It does call as part of it. Yeah.
yeah, and he's like a hunched man, quite slim and slender. Got tall boots on.
And wasn't it like he hunches down to try to like create a more approachable like look? He does so as not to be intimidating or something like that.
Exactly.
Wasn't that what
So
you said?
whenever he stands up straight, he's quite tall.
Yeah. Yeah. Melissa and I were just watching Mythic Quest last night over on Apple TV, and like there's this whole character and episode where there's this really tall guy, and it just intimidates the hell out of the CEO or the creative director of the company. So he's like eventually kind of kicks him down to the basement so he never has to see him again because he's just too tall. He just feels really intimidated by him. So it made me think of your character when I saw that. I'm like, oh, it's Oliver Cobb. Awesome. And then finally, we've got Melissa. Melissa, who are you?
So I am playing Uma Dunville. She is Ruvian. She is a leech. Her background is academic. So a Ruvian within the setting is sort of like the foreigners, so kind of like darker complected.
Mhm.
So she specifically is, kind of darker skin, darker hair, quite plump, and wears kind of like a men's suit vest.
Melissa and I have been talking about her vice choice. Do you
Yes.
want to remind everyone what your vice choice is? This is such
Yes.
a Melissa choice. This is great.
So I went with pleasure and food. So kind of Uma, but my nickname is Ma Puddin. And so basically, she is all about kind of finding various types of pudding, but like it's eating lots of it, but also like always trying to find like different and exotic, like recipes and ingredients and different things like that.
You eat pudding. I love it.
do.
It's
And sometimes it
such a Melissa
makes
thing
me
to do.
ill. Sometimes it was not a good combination of ingredients,
Mhm.
but yes.
really
Sometimes
good.
it's ghosts.
Sometimes it's ghost pudding.
Hmm.
Ghost pudding. I'm gonna write those notes down. And then, like, in 2 weeks, when I finally go back and look at these notes, I'm gonna wonder what the hell was ghost pudding. All right, I'm gonna put that down. That's gonna be something. We'll see. Okay, cool. So, and what's the name of your crew? Your crew's the Gutter Witches, right? So
Hell yeah.
we're hawkers, we're vice dealers, sort of focusing on selling drugs and other illegal substances. More than other types of vices. It seems to be the sort of the deciding factor. You also pick Ghost Market, so we're going to probably be rationing up our presence of like spirits and demons and things, which definitely came into play the first session, like right off the bat, but we're going to be using them in a little bit more controlled environment and stuff as well. So it should be kind of fun. So before we're going to be doing downtime tonight, like I said, we just did our first score last week. If we get through this fast enough, we might dive into another one. But let's talk a little bit about our previous score first of all. So you all operate in the neighborhoods of Silkshore. Specifically, I think you said you were interested in the Ease, which is like a northern neighborhood. And you're a very low tier 0, not very influential at all yet within the world of Duskfall. But you were somehow invited to a meeting at a place called the High Horn, which is a neighborhood to the south of you, which is the Fallcrest neighborhood, which is basically like a speakeasy and a hookah bar, if you want to think about that, or hookah bar. And while there, you had a conversation with a member of the Unseen, who is the Unseen is a very powerful gang within the city of Duskfall, and vice dealers themselves, to the point where they kind of have their hands on a lot of the different product exchanges that happen across the city. It's possible that you've dealt with them before and not even realized you were dealing with them, but in this case, while you weren't able to see their face specifically as they were talking through like this wicker window, you nonetheless were speaking to a member of the Unseen, and not only that, but they offered you a job. They offered it first to some other people in the same area as you, like the Dimmer Sisters and stuff, but they rejected the offer. But the idea was they wanted you as a kind of a lowly group to help them as they fight off the sort of growing influence of the Hive, which is another sort of major faction of more legitimate merchants who are still trying to do illegitimate type of business throughout Duskfall. And they wanted you specifically to hit a shipment barge that was coming in from the docks, and it was like traveling across the canals, the waters of Duskfall, and it was eventually going to unload and deliver a lot of that product to various street level dealers by the Bridge of the Lonely in Silkshore. You all went there. Oliver Cobb had a really nice flashback to immediately get some paperwork to make it look like they were properly supposed to be here. And then you all proceeded to essentially just cause chaos. Like, it just went crazy after that, which was really, really fun. At one point, Oliver Cobb got headbutted in the giblets by a goat who he tried to sway and didn't like what he was saying. Another point, Seth mind controlled basically 2 people and convinced them to jump into the dark canal waters. And that, among other kind of arcane attunement and channeling, led to the awakening of some kind of canal leviathan, which boy, that changed things. Which tentacles flying, people getting crushed. It looked like everything was going to go absolutely terribly. But finally, you guys just took a really bold decision to just jump onto the boat, take control of it, and you tried to kind of ride it away to the north and outrun this canal leviathan, who was busy killing all these other people. And in the last hurdle was that there was one remaining worker, hive worker that was on the boat. I think Cobb managed to, after some intense negotiation, convince him that it's in their interest to help you all rather than try to stop you from getting away. And that's where we ended, with you successfully absconding with a barge, small barge with a fairly full holds of various illicit drugs, primarily Black Lotus and Dream Powder. or at least the ingredients for such. So one of the things we didn't do last week is we didn't actually talk about XP. So at the end of every session, it's too quiet. I'm going to throw some music on here. Okay. So at the end of every session of Blades in the Dark, there are questions that you all get to answer that determines how much XP you get. During the course of a score, like or basically anytime you're rolling an action roll and like you have different position and stuff, you can roll. If you roll at Desperate, you can take some XP there, but you can also get XP just from doing certain things during the course. And so let's go over those now. Then we'll talk payoff, about like how much money you got, how much rep, and how much heat you all accrued, all that kind of stuff. So let's talk about your advancement.
Alrighty.
So yeah, some of you already did desperate action rolls, so you should have been marking the attribute, whether it was prowess or insight or finesse, or should be resolve, insight, or something else. I can't remember all three of them. Once that bar is full, you can actually take another action point. You can put another tick into one of the various
skills under it.
Various skills, the actions within that category. But the other XP comes from like more sort of broad. I'm sorry, the music's not working for me. From some more sort of broad stuff. Now, all of you should have a playbook trigger. So one specific thing that your playbook specifically would do. Do we want to go around and talk about? Let's start there. And so one by one, let's just say like what was your specific trigger that your playbook had, and then whether or not you think you did it, and sort of if you remember like what did you actually do. So Sethla, what's the trigger for whispers?
So you gain XP when you address a challenge with knowledge or arcane power. I did my arcane power. I attuned to a person, and I got, I believe, a critical success, and I was able to get 2 of them to go into the water.
Yeah, sounds right.
And yeah.
Okay, cool. So you get the market XP for that. And I should say, by the way, that even though I'm just sort of like am seeing it here, this is up to you all. Like, you all make these decisions. It's not up to me to determine whether you did or didn't earn this XP. You all make the case for it. You talk it out amongst yourselves. And if there's any question, then you kind of all agree on it and you move forward. Cobb, what is the trigger for the slide?
Yeah, for slide, when you address a challenge with deception or influence.
Yeah.
And only point where I talk to someone is this new crew member here on the ship, where I guess I struck a deal or convinced them in a way to help us take this boat.
But you also used a flashback to create fake papers to just and when we say approach the problem, it doesn't even have to be successful at it. It's just like you've tried to use a tactic.
Like the goat problem that you attempted to sway, which
I tried deceiving this goat.
kind of also counts.
Listen, you're really a person. Don't let them chain you up to this cart. Be free. Spread
Here's
your
some
wings.
cocaine.
Fly. Oh, God. Okay. So, yeah, I think that makes sense. And then, so XP for both of you. You all kind of tackled your approaches. And then, Uma, what was the leech's specific trigger?
So it's addressing a challenge through technical skill or mayhem.
Okay. Cool. Do you think you accomplished this?
I would say the one time was when I was tinkering with the cart to kind of separate it from the goats.
And successfully, and then the goats went crazy and knocked
They
people
did.
into the water. And all that. So I think that's a little bit of both, actually, like a technical skill of like being able to unhook them so quickly and easily, and also like the chaos that you created from that. Okay, let's see what else. So that's it for your playbooks. So let's hit like the normal general questions. So if you think you did this, you get to mark 1 XP if it happened. But if you think it happened a lot during the first session, you can actually mark 2 XP for it too. So if you think one of the next things that I start listing off is something you did frequently, you can potentially gain more than 1 XP. And it's up to you. Just like if you think you did it, then you take it. That's it. All right. Oh, Justin's in the chat. Look out.
Uh-oh.
There goes. Let me hit that ban button really quick. Where is it? Okay, so we've done playbook specific triggers. Okay, so now the next one is you expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background. So your character's beliefs and drives are yours to define. like from a session to session basis. And then you know that your heritage is specifically Akarosi or Aruvian in this case. Your backgrounds are things like, being a merchant, being a Leviathan hunter, that kind of stuff. So those are mechanical things that we pick during character creation. So anyone want to talk about that? You think you did it? How did you do it? All that kind of stuff.
If I don't have to be successful, I did do that thing where I went to the bar and tried to use my Leviathan hunter background to get information about like the ship and stuff. Do you remember that?
Oh, that was during the survey and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Again, it's not my decision. If you think you did it, and I think that makes perfect sense. Not that it matters what I think, but like, yeah, take it. Hey, Pat, what's going on? Yeah, go ahead. So you got XP there. Long, Melissa, do either of you think of a time in which you expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
I don't know that Uma did, really.
Okay.
First episode.
Okay.
What about you, Long?
Fair enough.
No, I don't think so either. Just sort of just did what I did.
Okay. Because like
Yeah, I feel like
your
I'm getting a
background's
better
trait,
idea
right?
of my character
Yeah.
to maybe do it more in the future.
Yeah, perfect.
Well,
It's a
would
learning
you
game.
say you maybe did it when you got our papers? Because didn't you? Or no, you used our Huxley, not your specific person. Never mind.
He just made up a flashback saying he spoke
Yeah.
with somebody that he knew in like the newspapers, which by the way, we could actually turn that into a real contact through a downtime activity if you really wanted to try to acquire if you wanted to turn Danny into a proper contact or a friend, like that's something you can do in downtime. And so we can say like he's a member of a specific faction. He's like probably the Inkrakers, which is sort of the like the journalist newspapers sort of the city. So if you wanted to take, which was just a kind of a simple flashback story that you made, and turn him into a recurring character that actually has mechanical value, that's how you do it. Okay.
Nice.
So then the last one is you struggled with issues from your vice or traumas.
We don't have any trauma conditions yet.
Mm-mm.
Cobb does. Well, Cobb had a
Had a
harm.
harm.
He took harm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Okay.
And I was just dancing just to dance. I wouldn't say that was an issue.
Fair enough. It's like you lost control of yourself. The music
Yeah.
took control, like Gloria Estefan. Music Miami Sound Machine. Was that Gloria Estefan? Never mind. I probably just screwed myself up there. Okay. All right. So nothing there then. All right. So then I think then go ahead. You guys see how your XP is. And when you get XP here, you can put it wherever you want. And you can either put it into a track for an attribute, or you can put it into the special abilities track. And if you fill that up, so whatever you fill up the special abilities bar, you can eventually take an additional special ability. And if you fill up a attribute track, you can put a new point into one of the actions within that category. So that's how that works.
Mm.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about then crew advancement. So crew also gets XP. So your crew has a crew-specific XP trigger as Hawkers. And so for you all, it's when you play Hawkers, you earn XP when you acquire new product supply, execute clandestine or covert sales, or secure new sales territory. I think it's pretty
that
obvious.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, supply for sure. So you guys, if one of you wants to open up the character sheet for our gutter witches, you can mark that. Contend with challenges above your current station.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, you did. It was specifically targeting the hive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is for you all to talk out, but like just me throwing in my 2 cents, feel free to ignore me. You also had this big old monster, and I almost would give you 2 XP. I would say I would almost, if I were in your positions, I would argue for 2, because it was both the hive and this massive monster that you had to contend with, which was probably more than like newbie gutter witches.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Okay. The next one is bolster your crew's reputation or develop a new one. And so remember, your reputation that you picked was strange.
I think we didn't develop a new one.
Yeah, I agree with that. Unless you
And I
wanted to
guess-
take like reckless, if you want to claim that.
And I guess the question would be like if people knew we did it, because like it seems like affecting your reputation would be like people know what you did, but like I
Mhm.
don't know if people know that we did this, so I
I
don't
think people
know.
knew we did it because of the amount of heat we're gonna get.
There you go. Yep. I
Like,
think Ash
Oh,
is
okay.
getting it. Yep.
Got it.
so you'd
got
say
it.
one.
So no, it's up. It's in.
So
You
the-
guys figure it out.
So if we're strange, then it would be, did we do anything to make ourselves
We
more
summoned a
strange?
leviathan.
Mhm.
We were like, "Fuck y'all! I'm gonna make you drown yourself." Also, here's a leviathan.
Okay. Okay. And then last is express the goals, drives, inner conflict, or essential nature of the crew, which is a very broad thing, admittedly. And so, essentially, did anything happen that highlighted the specific elements that you think makes your crew unique? Now, it's possible you haven't, we're just kind of getting the crew started, but like, what do you all think are the essential goals, drives, inner conflict of the crew? Like, what do you think so far after one score?
Yeah, I don't think we've really kind of fleshed that out just yet.
Yeah.
Well, good
And I
thing
feel
we're
like-
on stream right now. We can talk it
Yeah.
out. We can
I
do it
feel
right
like
now.
we dipped into the weird already, like the leviathan stuff.
Yeah, we got
Sure.
credit for that in the last
Yeah.
question.
Okay, fair enough. So now, since we've walked through it, now you kind of know this kind of stuff going forward, right?
Mhm.
Especially like with personal characters when it comes to like drives and your heritages, like you can dig into that, your backgrounds and stuff. And so you can start playing to those. It's really kind of rewarding role playing the bits and pieces that you have of your character.
Yeah.
But you also don't forget like the things like beliefs and drives. That's up for you to decide what those
Yeah.
things are. You could throw them in the notes section or something like that in your character sheet, and like those can definitely change. They don't have like the static nature of say your background or your heritage, which is definitely already fixed. So now going forward, you know your ways to get your XP if that is what you care about. All right, so cool.
Of course we do.
So how much XP did you all? Who is tracking the XP?
We got
How-
5.
All right, so not yet close enough to get a ding. So when you fill up the track, you can basically get an additional crew ability or 2 crew upgrades. And we're not there yet, but we'll get there soon enough, I'm sure.
How many did you guys have like for your characters for XP?
I got 2, and then I was desperate twice.
Nice.
So
How about you, Long?
I was desperate twice last time, and then I just got the one.
Fair enough.
Oh, I was silly and I wasn't desperate at all, so I only got 1 total for last episode.
It's not a race. It's not a competition. You're all on the same team.
This is true, but I am not pulling my weight in the team if I don't.
Yeah,
advance
until you're
on the
useless
scales.
and you're going to jail. Get seat off.
Well, that's the thing. If she is that useless, you could just use her as the fall guy to take some heat for you. Be like, you know what?
we're
You
like,
haven't been
roll
useless.
a new one, Mel.
Right?
Take some pudding cake. We'll bring you pudding cakes when we visit you. All right. So then the next thing we should do is payoff. So after every score, we do a payoff section. So let me walk. I kind of already sort of sketched out what I think, and I'm just going to run you through like what I was thinking with this. You tell me if this makes sense to you all. So basically, payoff has to do with reputation, coin, and heat. Like those are the 3 big things that come from this. So reputation. I'm gonna start with that one if I can find where I just put it. Or why don't I start with heat? Because heat is what I have as the page. So with heat, there's kind of set amounts that you get depending upon how smooth the score went. So 0 heat is a smooth and quiet with low exposure. 2 heat is contained, standard exposure. 4 heat is loud and chaotic, high exposure. And 6 heat is wild, devastating exposure.
Oh.
Ashley and I talked about this when we
Yeah.
were getting on Zoom ready. We both were like, summoned a
6 heat.
giant canal
Yeah.
leviathan right there in the
That's
middle
pretty smooth
of
and
some
quiet.
shore. That's smooth and quiet. It was a very smooth and quiet leviathan. Super stealthy. Had no idea it was there. So I think 6 heat for that. Yeah. Then we got +2 from a devil's bargain that Cobb accepted. So that's 8 heat. That's automatic. And then, because killing was involved, as there were people that were killed by the Leviathan that you all summoned, there is an automatic +2 as well. So you all got 10 heat.
Oh wow!
For the first. Yeah, some of the folks over at Garblag who I talked to about the game from time to time, they're like, "Yeah, looks like this is gonna be one of them prison crews." Because of how much you guys took, which is great.
So that means we have a flag in wanted.
So yeah, you guys have moved up to level 1 wanted, and you have like 1 point of heat as well. So that's where you guys are at. It's okay, everything's fine. So then the next, it's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. So then there's reputation. So reputation, you get 2 rep by default. So you get 2. Then if the target of the score, which in this case was the hive, is higher tier than you, you take +1 rep per tier higher they are than you, which in this case, they're tier 4 versus your tier 0. So that's 2 + 4 is 6. And then I think that's it. So yeah, so you got 6 reputation for that, which is great. Reputation can be used in a couple different ways, but one of the ways it can be used is like currency. In some cases, is you can do that as like during some downtime activities. We'll talk about when it's relevant. And then there's coin. So in this case, coin, there's different tiers. So there's 2 coin for a minor job with several full purses. There's 4 coin for a small job, which is the equivalent of a strong box. 6 coin for a standard score, which is decent loot. 8 coin for a big score with serious loot. And then there's 10 plus coin for a major score with impressive loot. I feel like we're at the 8th tier. Not quite the highest tier, because there's other things, but we're pretty high. You've got a barge filled with product and some special product on the inside. As you dig through, as you guys are like inventorying what you have, you realize there's a great deal of your standard run-of-the-mill drugs of different kinds. Like I said, the ingredients are the sort of the resin, the tar resin for Black Lotus, and then the dream powder and stuff. But you also find hidden, as you had time to look, hidden within a smuggler's compartment that wasn't immediately noticeable, there was another crate with some much more interesting bits. We'll dive into that later, but I think that's what ticks you up to 8, is that you get like that craziness. And then the other option, the other thing to consider is whether or not you want to kind of give sort of like a taste to the unseen who gave you the job. Like, do you want to pay them off, like tip them a coin for, thanks for giving us that tip, that kind of stuff. Totally optional. There's a faction game, there's like status and stuff like that. So it's up to you if you all want to do it. But it would be like tipping them a coin for taking the job, which could potentially keep you in their really good graces, even improve your status in some way, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we should here.
What'd you say?
I think we should tip them a coin.
Yeah.
Got us
Yeah, I
this
agree.
job.
I will put that down. So you are definitely becoming more and more in the good graces of the unseen, which is a very strong and friend. To be friends with them is probably a very good thing. Okay, so that means you guys have 7 coin coming to you. Pretty good, right?
Be rich.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got your reputation, we've got our coin, we've got our heat. The only thing I didn't add was the coin, which can be distributed a couple different ways. You can throw, I think you guys can put 4 coins into like the stash, and then you can distribute 1 to each of you. So then each one of you takes a coin, 4 goes into your group stash, and so that's 7 coins. Works perfect. And so on your individual character sheets, go ahead and mark 1 coin, and then somebody I just saw do it added the 4 coins to the gutter, which is crew sheet. Okay. Cool. So then, let's dive into downtime. So you guys got this score. You got this barge. Kind of finding a place to sort of either unload it quickly and get rid of the barge, or we talked about what you might potentially do with it. And so we're kind of flesh that as we go. But let's talk about how downtime essentially works. You all get 2 free downtime activities, meaning everyone by default, unless you're at war, which you guys aren't currently, you get 2 free downtime activities. Those activities are, I got a list for you here. There are acquire an asset. You can gain a temporary asset. And temporary is usually like the length of another score, but it can vary depending upon what it is. So there's some room for flexibility there. So it's like a special item, a temporary cohort, a vehicle, some kind of service, like getting somebody to transport something for you. Excuse me. Use of a warehouse to store some stuff or to hide some stuff, which might be something that might be of interest to you all. If you ever try to acquire an illicit asset, like a bomb, for instance, that's going to automatically gain you heat. So there's certain things like that. Acquire an asset can be like, there's a lot of flexibility there. So if you think you have an IT that might fit that, then we can talk it out. There's long-term projects, so you can start one of those. Those can be very personal. They could be crew related. So this could be anything from like investigation into something that you just found in the score. They could be something like researching an arcane ritual that you are interested in performing at some point. It could be trying to earn someone's trust. It could be trying to court a new friend or a contact. So like with what we've done already, hypothetically speaking, Cobb, you could try to actually, as a long-term project, befriend this particular ink raker that you kind of traded a favor with, and then he can actually become a friend that you list in your character sheet, or a crew contact that you list in the character sheet, something like that.
That would be cool.
Changing a vice. So if you guys, if Melissa she's done with pudding, and she's moving on to Black Tower heroin, classic gateway drug that pudding is. Well, sure. Pudding, totally a gateway drug.
I've been lacing it this whole time.
Oh God. All right, so, but if you have ideas for something, throw it out there. And if you don't have ideas, but you are interested in doing one, then we talk it out, and all of us can kind of figure something out, which is fun. You can recover. This is really only going to be relevant to probably Cobb in this case, because I don't think anyone else got harm. I think you were the only one who did. You got a level 1 harm because you got headbutted in the groin by a goat. So recovering is getting rid of harm, and it means like going to someone who specializes in healing. If you had somebody in the crew that had the Physiker talent, so if Melissa as a leech had taken the Physiker talent, you could just go to her as a recover action. Or if you had a cohort, like a specialist that was also a Physiker, you could do that too. Otherwise, because you don't have one within the group, you would probably have to do an acquire asset first to gain access to a healer, and then do like a recover to heal. So it's like a combo thing. And if you don't, by the way, if you don't deal, well, I'll get to that later. Forget what I said. You can try to reduce your heat, and that's really just sort of you narrating and describing how you do it. There's no like sort of specific way you need to do it. It's just something that you think within the fiction you think your character could do to help reduce that heat. That's what you could do there. It would require you then to make an action roll based upon whatever you described. So some examples that are in the book are like consorting with a friendly blue coat who might help dispose of some incriminating reports on you, maybe commanding locals nearby to make them afraid to snitch on you, or whatever else you think of. You can train, which allows you to mark 1 XP on the XP track for either an attribute or a playbook advancement, so either the special abilities or the attribute thing. But you can train a given type of XP only once per downtime. So hypothetically, if you took train twice, you couldn't train like a special ability track 2 times. You can only do it once. Then the one I think everyone's going to be doing this week, indulging vice. Indulging vice is how you reduce stress. And this involves you visiting your vice purveyor, and you just kind of describe what you do. So it's like you have like a fun little moments sort of describing what that is. We can flesh out like that location. We can flesh out your vice purveyor, whatever you think in your head would make sense. It's very much like a resistance roll, but it's in reverse. Whereas like what you do is you take your sort of the related and weakest attribute, and then you roll that and if and then you determine, and that determines how much stress you get to heal. So if, for instance, you have like 0, I think if you have 0 in the attribute, you would roll 2 and take the lowest. Otherwise, you roll the die and you take the highest, and that's how much stress you heal. Now, if you were ever to heal more stress than you actually have, that means, so like say you have like 4 stress and you roll a 6, and so you get to heal 6 stress, basically. You are now overindulging. Overindulging is a risk that happens because vice, the idea of a vice is that it's uncontrollable, right? You can't like necessarily plan it perfectly. Sometimes you lose control. Sometimes that pudding just looks way, way too good, and you just sort of devour it more than you intended, or you spend more money on it than you intended, or you kind of you do something desperate in the acquisition of it, whatever it might be. So what that means is if you ever overindulge, then you have to there's a couple different choices. You could attract trouble, which means you could have an entanglement like pop up. You might gain some heat because while you were indulging, you were bragging. So Melissa's like eating her pudding, like, and yeah, then we just we got that canal leviathan, like this, something like that, right? And so you get the 2 heat because you were bragging or whatever. You could become lost, where your character vanishes for a few weeks. You play a different character for like a score or 2, and then they come back from their bender having healed. Or you could be tapped, meaning like your vice purveyor cuts you off, and you need to now find a new source for that. Now, the last thing with this is that if you can ignore your vice if you don't have trauma. So in the case of you guys, none of you have trauma. Long's got harm, but none of you have trauma. So technically you all could ignore your vice if you wanted to. Otherwise, if you had trauma and you ignored your vice, then you would actually take additional stress. So something to consider. All right, we ready to dive in?
Oh yeah.
Okay, does anyone have an idea right off the bat with something they want to do for their downtime? Any order, just shout it out. Let's start with something cool and interesting.
Yeah, let's just start like immediately get this supply like taken care of.
Okay.
Make sure it's nice and secure.
Okay, so you want a warehouse. You want to try to find a warehouse. Is that what we're thinking?
That, or like somehow take ownership of the ship, because it's like surely marked in a way that we don't own it. So like,
take it to like a chop shop kind of thing.
Yeah, somehow like fudge papers, or like somehow get it registered under.
Okay.
Legit. Yeah.
I love this. I love this. That's even better than the warehouse idea. Okay, so you're doing the acquire asset. All right, that's what you're trying to do. So basically, you're trying to like kind of get forged ownership papers, or something like that. We'll say.
Like that.
Okay, so something that might change out like who owns it, what's like what's its identifiable like registration or something like that, whatever they might have. Okay, I like that.
Get any like if it's got like engravings or any identifying markers on the ship, actually get those covered.
Okay. So all right.
Would that be like a long-term?
No, I don't think it's a long term. I mean this sounds pretty quick, because I feel like going and getting it. I just want to make sure. I'm just double checking whether, because this sounds like a service. It sounds like the service of like a forger, right? Somebody who can forge something, and that falls under acquire asset just fine. So I think we're cool there. I'm just trying to see if there was a role that I can't remember.
He already had a forger that he contacted.
Right. Okay. So to acquire the asset, so what you're trying to do is you roll the crew's tier, which is 0, which indicates the quality of the asset you get. So in this case, you would be rolling 2 d6s, and you would take the lower.
Mm-hmm.
And then based upon your roll determines what tier of like the forged documents are going to be, right? Now the cool thing, doesn't look good, that doesn't sound good, but the cool thing is this is one of the things you can spend coin on. You can burn your coin.
Thinking, like, add a coin to increase like the quality, I think it is.
Yeah, so why don't you start by just rolling the 2d6s and seeing what you get, and then we'll see what you're working with.
Okay.
Oh
Got a 1
god.
and a 2.
Oh, no.
So the
Okay.
lowest one would be a 1.
Okay, so that's a tier -1, and I'm gonna say like at minimum you're gonna want to get a tier 1 for this. Otherwise, like you just have like really crappy papers, which is gonna effectively. So you can spend 1 coin to raise the result of this roll. Okay, so you can spend coin to raise the result of this roll. Okay, so I think in this case you'd have to spend 2 coin to get it up to tier 1. You know, you have 1 of your own, and you have 4
then
that
one of
went
the-
to the group.
Okay. So I can spend more than 1 coin?
I think so.
It looks like it's only like if you want to get it beyond critical,
Mm-hmm.
to spending 2.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, so the result indicates the quality of the asset you get. Okay.
Did we
It
have
says
any
increase
rerolls
the
left
result.
over?
Increase the result level by 1 for each coin spent.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Where did you see that? Because I thought I read that somewhere. Where did you
Page
see that, Melissa?
153.
Yeah, for any downtime activity, you can also take a +1 roll to the die if a friend or a contact helps you. So do you have a friend or a contact that could help you with this? Not Danny, because I don't think
No.
Danny qualifies yet.
I
He's
haven't
just
made
sort of-
him.
Yeah.
No,
What
I-
about? Okay. All right. So you don't get the extra die after the roll. You can spend coin after the roll to improve the result level. Increase the result level by 1 for each coin spent. So essentially, your 1, which is like the tier of that success, is a 1 to 3. You can improve that to like the next highest, which would make it a tier, basically tier 0, since you guys are tier 0. So if you spend 2 coins, you can get it to a 6. If you
Okay.
spend 3, which will give you a tier +1, which is the minimum. If you wanted to spend 3 coin, you can get it to a tier 2, meaning like the forge documents are even more
Quality.
high quality.
Legitimate.
Bits for a coin. That's actually a really good idea. Coins are pretty powerful though. What do we want to do? Like 300? Make it like our complication tier, because we have the 100 for like 100 bits
Yeah.
for we roll
Yeah,
300
coins
for
are
a
pretty
coin.
powerful in this.
Yeah, we'll go 300 to all the Twitch. I should add that. I'm still sort of murking, like kind of thinking how the bits would interact here. So, Cop, how much do you want to spend?
Yeah, I'm kind of doing 2 here to bring it to tier 1. I think it's pretty
Okay.
important that we have this.
Okay, so we're gonna say that you reach out probably to Danny, and while Danny doesn't necessarily do this kind of thing themselves, maybe you talk amongst a variety of other folks. You have, tavern friends or whatever, but you find word of a forger, like a forge artist. Oh, we got some bits. There we go. We have extra
Oh,
coins.
thank
There's 2
you.
more coins. Do you want to spend it
Specifically
here?
for long.
Yeah. So
I
screw
think
you,
for
Settlin.
this.
Do you want to improve the do you want to spend them right now, or do you want to save them for something later in downtime?
Oh, it's like even make it tier 2
Yeah.
even.
Yeah, it's up to you.
I'll do 1 more.
Okay, so you're going to make it so it's going to be a tier 2. All right. So what's the name of the forger you found?
His name, maybe her name, Cynthia.
Cynthia. You picked
All I can
such
think
like
of is Rugrats, like the hair.
Cynthia. Okay. All right. So you find, we'll say you find Cynthia. She's probably somewhere in like maybe you have to actually go over into like a different district to kind of get a hold of her. Maybe Crow's Foot or something. Cynthia LaForge. I'm putting it down. I know that's cheese, but I'm putting that down. But you find somebody by the name of Cynthia LaForge somewhere kind of over, we'll say in like the Salt Ridge area of Crow's Foot. And that's a dicey neighborhood to be in, and kind of spending too much time here. You don't probably want to alert because there's like gang warfare going on here in sort of significant quality. But you do manage to, not with a not inconsiderable payment, managed to get a hold of some documents that will make you're pretty confident that any kind of basic inspection would most likely would not like question this, like the quality of the documents themselves. Only somebody who really already knew maybe that this was something that yours would take too much of a close look at this. So only if somebody took a really fine look at that would they even probably be able to tell. So at tier +2 for your forged documents, that's pretty good, man. Okay. And so that allows you, not only that, but allows you to keep ownership of the barge for now. So you've got so not only do you get the documents, but you actually get the barge itself. So you now have a
So cool.
right.
Yeah.
For
we
the
could
time
somehow
being.
figure out a long-term project to somehow make it permanently ours. We have to
Exactly.
figure out like what that would look
Right.
like.
So you're going to be able to keep this for at least a little bit of time, maybe a score or two. But if you wanted to keep it more permanent, because it still looks a certain way, right? So we might say like to try to acquire this permanently would require maybe a very small long-term project to do some renovations, some changes to it, things like that. But right now, at the very least, you're not going to get in trouble with the law with any sort of inspection or things like that. Okay, I love it. All right, who else has got an idea for a downtime activity? Sethla, Uma, what are you thinking?
I need to indulge my vice.
Okay, so I checked on this, and you specifically, you have yours listed as the night market, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Roland
I
Valeris.
love the Veil, or the social club.
Okay. Now the social club itself, there's different tiers to it. There's like the elegant tier where people just sit around and drink brandy from sniffers and things like that.
That is not
snifters and stuff.
Sethla.
But the underground veil, like the basement level, or maybe the sub basement level, or maybe the sub basement somewhere in like a catacombs, or maybe there's just dirt, who knows, is where the rave happens. Maybe it's the younger crowd is sort of congregates down there. You have various whispers and other sort of spark inventors who have set up these different like spark inventions that are almost like strobe lights and stuff that are flashing here and there. You've got musicians, but not the type of kind of moody kind of college hippie musicians that you see sometimes around Silkshore or like over in Charter Hall. But these are more, there's something about them it's more about the beat as opposed to about like meaning or anything like that. It's really just kind of getting people active. Sweat. It's like that scene from the Matrix, the second Matrix, where you kind of first arrive and everyone's just sort of kind of going crazy as we zoom in on this like sub-level basement area. Okay. How would you say Roland Valeris? Give me an example of, say, what's a interaction that you've had with Roland Valeris in the past?
Well, so what I've read is he's not really seen very often.
Sure.
Because he's Tychosi. How do you say that?
Tychosi.
So
Glow stick witches.
It's rumored that he's the bottom half of him is like snake-like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like the same interaction that I've had with like the Unseen, where he's behind like this very beautiful silk curtain, and that's where he like sometimes he invites people back there with him, but usually he just talks to people through the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me drugs once through the curtain.
Okay. What did the drugs do? Don't worry if you don't know the name, it's fine. But if what was the effect of the drugs?
It was probably similar to like LSD.
Okay.
Because it sent me on a trip when I went out on the dance floor with like all the lights and stuff.
Okay. All right. So you arrive once more at the Veil, at the social club. You can see that the main floor when you go in is pretty standard stuff. You actually have to go through a bit of a pat down and things like that. There's a list to get to certain places.
Ladies' night.
It's ladies' night. Okay, so like we'll say there's like the open general bar area where like Most people can get there as long as they like properly tip like the bouncers at the door or something like that. But to get to like the upper parts where the nice levels are, the private rooms, the private dancing, or anything else that might be up there, that requires you to be on a list. And so as you're wandering around the main floor, you can see that the stairs going up to the upper levels is roped off. There's like a secondary bouncer that's there who is also Taikarosi, but you can see that they instead have like almost like devil like horns or bull horns coming out that have been sort of filed down like Hellboy a bit, but they nonetheless, are looking about with this sort of mean mugging at everybody, and no one comes close unless they specifically know they're already on the list. And when they do, you can see he unhooks and somebody kind of goes up and disappears. Well dressed, possibly nobles who are slumming it down here in the night market. But you take a different path, which is to go down, and it's almost like you're going down through like this grind. Like there's like a storeroom where there's some of their food and some of their drink, and it's like this special little travel down, like that one scene from Goodfellas where you're just kind of being you're being tracked for a very significant period of time. And after you go down like maybe 2 or 3 flights of stairs into the basement, we start to hear, first it's just sort of like the subtle thumping, and then we start to hear some more of the beats and stuff coming through, and then finally we start seeing some of the flickering of the lights, and then eventually it opens up onto this like 100-foot by 50-foot crude
I like to
underground.
think it's like a crypt.
Yeah. And it's like, and you can see like where like this old stone and stuff has kind of crumbled down here and there. Like catacombs have been cleaned out a bit. There's like these like stone reinforcements that have been, and every time people dance, there's like all sorts of like sand and dirt coming down. Okay. And you're looking around, maybe, one of Roland, maybe Roland didn't speak with you tonight, but at the very least, some of Roland's people are probably down here pushing various small bits of product. So
yeah, his girls, I like to imagine, like his little waitresses.
Okay, so we're gonna do your indulging of vice. You're going to roll dice equal to your lowest attribute rating. So what's your lowest attribute rating? I think it's probably a 1, right? I think you have a 1 in something.
Yeah, my insight, or I have 1 in resolve or command, or like, what do you mean?
You have
like insight, prowess, or resolve. That's what we're talking about.
Insight you have 1, prowess you have 2, resolve you have 2. So it would be insight. So in this case, that would sort of make sense. Okay. So kind of clear your head. So dancing down here, getting is kind of clearing the brain out a bit, clearing your head.
I like to think there's like a cage hanging, and that's where I like to go in and dance above everybody else.
Okay. Excellent. I like it. Let's go ahead. So roll that. So that's a 1d6. Again, you can do, if you wanted to do the whole coin thing to try to get another, you're welcome to do that. But it's up to you.
Is this the same as the other where I can roll it first and then see if I want to spend a coin or no?
I'm not sure if you actually even did that right. I can't remember. If you're supposed to call it ahead of time. Melissa, you read it. What did it say? Did it say you have to call it ahead of time or just increase afterwards?
So I'm looking at the Vice section, trying to kind of reread that again.
I don't think it's under the Vice section. It's the same thing you found before, which is like the base downtime activity explanation. So.
Oh, that's right. For any downtime activity, you can take 1 dice.
If a friend or contact helps you.
Yeah, and then after the roll, you can spend coin.
So do you think there is any kind of friend or contact that could potentially... you're indulging your vice. I don't know, you tell me. Do you think it makes sense to...
For my friend, no.
Okay.
Because my friend is Nirix. He's a professor ghost.
Mm-hmm.
He's good at like helping me get information, sourcing targets, kind of thing.
Okay. So then the next question is, like, you can just roll it, and it looks like you can just spend the coin to improve the result. So it's an after the fact thing. So why don't you go ahead and roll it?
So I just do insight, no modifier, just roll.
Just roll. Okay. So you reduce 4.
Nice.
So you get 4 stress back.
Very cool.
So I still have 4 stress. but that's not as
true.
bad.
Very true.
Okay. All right. I mean, technically, if you wanted to spend a coin, you can bump that to 6, and so then you could reduce 6, and so it's your call.
Nah.
Because that would be the next tier, because the tiers are 1 to 3, 4 to 5, then 6, then critical. So, okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So, there's one thing we didn't really talk about, and it's going to trigger here. So there's this thing called entanglements.
Yeah.
So entanglements, basically, it's something I roll relative to your heat and your wanted level. And what this means is like there's like random events can potentially happen as a result of that. And we can do it 2 different ways. We can roll them in the future. We can roll them out on the table. I just rolled it ahead of time just so I had it in my head for the first time. Or I could just keep it a surprise. So it's up to you guys how we do it. Like we can talk that out. But in this case, we're just going to spring it on you because I think it makes perfect sense here. So Sethla, you're doing your dance thing. You're getting in your trance. You've got your equivalent of LSD. So we'll say probably dream powder or something like that, maybe.
Okay.
And you're having a wonderful time. And then you hear kind of a commotion at some point, several hours into your time here, and you see that like coming down that long rickety staircase, you can see that there's some other of these employees of the Vale, and all of a sudden like the music shuts off, the lights shut off, and you hear people talking about how some kind of like blue coat raid's going on. And so everyone's just be quiet. And like they pull some kind of stone tablet like that covers this last staircase going down so that they don't see this gigantic like drug haze and rave party like in this sub catacombs. And everyone's just sort of there. Some people might like light a match or something like that, or maybe have a lantern here or there that gives you a little bit of light. But the music stops. People are still tripping. You're probably still tripping out like crazy.
Yeah.
But eventually, the the cover tablet is removed, and as you hear that they were here looking specifically for someone from Silkshore. Somebody apparently like there was some sort of big like robbery, some score happened, like proper actual merchants were hit, and these very elegant like antiques and other silks and things were stolen from people who, based on a tip, like to indulge themselves at the Vale. And so they were specifically looking, and while they didn't find anyone in particular, there was kind of quite a commotion as they dragged Roland Valeris out and into custody. So just to peel back the curtain so I can walk you through like what happened is I rolled for an entanglement. The entanglement I got was the usual suspects. So usual suspects are like the blue coats grab someone in the periphery of your crew, so it could be like a friend or a vice purveyor. I think in this particular case, like technically you guys can like volunteer this. In the future we will totally do that, but I just wanted to have it prepped. But in this case it just made perfect sense. You were going to see Roland. This was a perfect idea. So then what basically happens is like we roll to find out. So one of two things can potentially happen. We make a fortune roll to find out if they resist the questioning or if they kind of turn on you. Or you guys can resolve this pretty easily by just going to the blue coats. You don't necessarily have one specific contact, but you know that there's plenty of blue coats that are on to take. And if you just put a coin into the hands of the right greasy palm, you can make all this go away. And you don't even have to worry about whether or not Roland does anything like this. So, what do you guys
yeah,
want to do?
I'll probably use my coin to bribe the blue coats.
Okay. All right. So, why don't you give me the name of a blue coat that you might go visit?
Oh God. his name is her name is Anya.
Okay. Anya. All right. So there's a woman named Anya. We'll say she's Akarosi. You find the local precinct with a night market. You go in. You're sweating like crazy. You're still sort of coming down from the effects of the dream powder.
Mm-hmm.
You fetch like a kind of a local running kid who like kind of runs messages here and there and kind of give them the name of Anya. Give them a point and like contact in the back, like an alleyway, a street or two over. Sort of explain your situation. We don't got to role play it all out because you're all paying the coin. And that how a friend of yours was kind of taken into custody tonight. Totally mistaken identity. The information that led to Roland being brought into custody was completely fabricated. Maybe do you just sort of say, Roland's got nothing to do with it, or do you try to throw somebody else under the bus?
Oh God, I don't know who I would throw under the bus.
Well,
Actually,
you just tell me if you have an idea. Okay, go ahead.
So my rival is his name is Skurlock. He's a vampire.
Yeah, be careful with Skurlock, because Skurlock is their own faction unto themselves. Like they're like a level 3. Yeah, Lord Skurlock's. Okay. You could totally do it. You 100% can do it. I'm just like, you might want to read some of the Lord Skurlock stuff at the back.
I'll have to go back and read this stuff.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you read that the part
I
at the back
didn't.
about Skurlock. Yeah. No, it's totally cool, because I think Aaron picked like Lord Skurlock too. We never really got into it too much, but Lord Skurlock is like a big deal. Okay.
Got it.
But you do you want to say that some people in the employ of Lord Skurlock are likely responsible? Is that what the rumor you want to establish is?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't want to scare you away. I just wanted to.
Yeah, you know what? No, I'm going to him because he might be my ex-lover, and
God.
so he's spurned and he's pissed off at me.
Okay. And so this is just their way of kind of getting back at you. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Let's keep it going then. And so that was so you've taken care of your own one of your downtime activities. You've burned a coin for kind of getting rolling out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the next night you go and you visit the Vale. Roland actually calls you over towards the silk curtain. Kind of peels it back. You can see his face. There's sort of a look of frustration, and so like he'll probably say something, and he has almost like a slithering type of voice, where his voice is very kind of drags out certain sounds a bit, and he very diplomatically explains that Sethla, your business here is always appreciated, but there is a saying from Taikarosi, and it's, don't shit where you eat. You come here, you partake in our activities. Whatever you have gotten yourself into, please leave myself out of it, or the Vale's various delightful entertainments might become closed to you.
And she just apologizes and promises,
It happens, it's fine. Enjoy your evening. And he just slides over, and thank you. And he's you see there's a little packet, almost like a tea bag size of dream powder on the house for the evening. And so you go back to your trance dancing.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. All right, Melissa, I don't think you've done one yet. Do you have an idea?
Not yet. So when we finish this up, I'm actually going to do training as the first one that I'm going to do.
Okay.
So what I'm going to say with this is, we kind of were successful at this. It was stressful. I'm gonna say that Uma's kind of like pumped at the moment, like she's kind of like a little bit amped up. Um, and so what she's actually going to do is she is going to go find her family. So kind of the backstory with Uma is that she's a Ruvian, so her family actually spends their time in Silkshore, and they're part of like they have all of like the carnivals and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
That's kind of right there by the fence.
Absolutely.
And so basically, her family is known as the Flying Dumbbells, and so they are all like kind of like the acrobat kind of trapeze artist types.
Flying dumbbells?
Dunville, her last name.
Dunvilles. Okay. Oh, yeah, your last name. I'm sorry. I thought it was like we were throwing weights around at everybody.
No, we're throwing knives
Okay.
and other things, but
Okay.
so because they are good at kind of the finesse skirmish types of stuff with what they do.
Okay.
So she's actually going to go and just kind of do some training with them. Like she definitely
Okay.
is not gone their direction, but spend some time with them.
Sure. So you you're over here. This is the Spark Grounds in Silkshore. This is kind of entertainment area here. You know that the big the Flying Dunvilles are very good, don't get me wrong, but the real attraction here are the Spark Flyers, like these very like death-defying artists that not only are flying through the air, but they're kind of incorporating sort of spark tech and everything like that to such a way that it's almost like a combination of doing high wire acts and trapeze artistry and pyrotechnics at the same time. So it's this huge combination of this. But on nights when they're not acting, when they're not sort of because they don't kind of do their show every night. The Flying Dunvilles are definitely like they're like the stable. They come out all the time. They're there every night. They're the workforce of it all, but they're not necessarily the stars. Okay, so you're probably over by like I don't know, like Sideshow Row or something, and you're kind of training about. What are you training in specifically?
So specifically in like prowess.
Okay.
So if I have to pick one specifically, I would say skirmish. But I'm working on a prowess.
Okay. What does your father look like? And what's your father's name?
So it's actually all just siblings.
Oh, it's just siblings. Okay, so
It's just siblings.
Okay.
So I am one of four. I'm the youngest of four. So
Okay.
the oldest two are sisters, Kali and Adi.
Okay.
And then I'm the youngest, and then the second youngest is a brother called Buka.
Okay. Buka. Okay.
So
Not Boca. You don't want to go with Boca?
Nope. Kali, Adi, Buka, and Uma.
Okay. All right. So, who do you go for specifically for the training?
Buka.
Okay, you go to Buka. So Buka's kind of hanging out with the strongmen in Strongman Alley lately, doing some weightlifting here and there. He kind of sees you coming. Now Buka's probably in fairly good shape if they're like these aerial artists, right? Everyone's
Unlike
probably in
Uma,
really good shape.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there is that like a source of conversation, like of sibling rivalry or meanness? Do they fat shame you or something like that?
I think just generally the fact that I didn't sort of follow in,
Okay.
kind of what the family does, and that I actually wanted to like kind of become part of the like making money and doing all of those things within the rest of the city is just kind of not looked kindly upon because everyone
Okay.
else, this is just what they do.
Yeah. So when he sees you coming, he's like, well, look who's coming to visit. Hello, sis. What do you
How are you?
need?
I'm just,
Fit as a fiddle.
well, that's kind of why I'm here, just looking for a little, sparring.
Sparring now. You want to take a few rounds in the ring with your little brother?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll say that near the Strongman Alley there is very much a like wrestling ring, where they do death-defying stunts. So it's very like AEW wrestling bits and stuff. So you can see like you probably go during before a show, and so there's like actual time to kind of work around in there. And you spend a few times moving about. He shows you a maneuver that specifically he's trying to incorporate, because he wants to, we'll say that Buka wants to doesn't want to be known just as part of the Flying Dunvilles. He also wants to make his own name as maybe a wrestler or something like that too, right? As part of these strongmen. What's a move that he does? What's the name of a move he does?
Oh goodness.
I know it's hard, isn't it?
I don't even know, like a frame of reference to like an animal, like animal something or another, or like I don't even know.
What about
where
like
to
the
start.
Buka backbuster?
Done. Wrestling move is the Buka Backbuster.
Perfect.
Done. Okay.
The
So he
Buka
starts-
Buster.
Okay. It's the Buka Buster. Okay. I'll put the Buka Buster down. You workshopped it a bit. He's like, I call this the Buka Backbuster. And you're like, Buka Buster might be better. He's like, I'm glad you came by, sis. All right. Yeah, so you
His
spend-
brains for something.
Sure. So you spend a few hours going through that. Sure. And so go ahead and mark your XP for the attribute that you want.
Got it.
And you spend some time with your family as well. It's a good thing you went first. Otherwise, I might have had your brother arrested. We'll see. We know how Melissa is about giving up on her siblings at the beginning of...
Early
Oh God! And you
episode
gave
family
him
trauma.
3?
Yeah, I have 3. She gave me 3 siblings that I can just do awful things to. And suddenly, this
The twins die.
The canal leviathan just comes flying through the air, out of nowhere. The spark tower doesn't seem to be working. The lightning tower doesn't be working. And just snatches your sisters clear out of the air. Who would have thought? All right.
So that's now canon that the oldest are twins. So that's
Okay.
That's no canon.
They're twins. All right. So then let's cycle back. Cobb, you got a second one in mind?
Yeah, did you look at the original Vice I had down when I made my character? Or...
I think it was Stupor. Did you pick Stupor?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But I had a layer, but I changed it, if that's okay.
What do you want to change it to?
I want to... I don't know if Stupor is gambling Stupor related.
I think Stupor is sort of the idea of, let's see, you got the Leaky Bucket, which is a tavern, bar. There is a casino. Trying to think. Powder dealer, bar, brothel, pleasure barge. There's like an alleyway, cat, dogs, things. What are you thinking? What do you want as the Vice? Just specifically, and then we'll from there we'll figure out the best category. So what are you thinking?
Originally I had drug-wise, but I kind of want to pivot over to like a gambling style. So maybe just make it straight gambling.
Yeah. Okay. Gambling is one of the categories, so yeah, makes sense. Okay, so we'll say gambling. Probably makes sense. You're a guy who deals with money and coin and stuff in your former trade life, right?
Excellent poker face.
So in terms of like places you could call like your Vice den, or your Vice purveyor. If you want to stick in Silk Shore, there's the Silver Stag Casino. If you want to go outside of Silk Shore and want something a little bit more specific, there's dice games in Crowfoot. There's boxing at the docks. There's some hound racing, so dog racing over by Night Market. There's some fighting pits in Dunslow, so think of that more like kind of no holds barred, like MMA type stuff compared to boxing, which probably has a little bit more structure to it. Then there's the Dusk Manor Club, which is in White Crown, and that's big money, White Crown. So, what are you thinking? What's his game of chance that he likes the best?
He likes games where he can read people in, so it's like maybe card games.
Cards. Okay. Silver Stack Casino probably then, I would say. In Silk Shore probably makes the most sense, if you're cool with that.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so your Vice Purveyor would be Helene at the Silver Stag Casino. All right, I'll make a note. All right, so I'm assuming you're indulging in your Vice?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So the Silver Stag Casino is in your backyard. where you guys do your sales your sales territory. The main purveyor of it is Helene herself, she's not necessarily like, well known. She's somebody who probably doesn't necessarily intermingle with everybody, but there's all sorts of games here. There are dice games and stuff, but there's probably something similar to billiards as well, and I imagine you can probably find all manner of games to some degree, but definitely the primary the primary machine that keeps the money going are various card games, probably similar to poker or like blackjack, that kind of thing. And so yeah, you wander in one night, a night when you know that there's probably gonna be some easy marks at some of the tables. Maybe you hit the lower level tables just to kind of warm up a bit, and then eventually you start hitting some of the bigger tables. So you sit down at one point at a table, and you pick a mark, somebody for sure. Like, this person has no idea maybe they're drunk, maybe they're understood, maybe they're like they don't know how to play. Tell me a little something about the mark that you pick. Give me like a detail, something about what they look like or how they sound, or if they give a name or something like that.
Yeah. Right now he's bright and lively because he seems to be drunk, as he said. His name, I learned it to be Brad.
Brad. Okay. I think you just really want to hit like all of like the most. I love it. It's just so good.
Is he wearing like sunglasses indoors kind of thing?
He's got like the Duskfall equivalent of like a 10-gallon cowboy hat on. He's like a bolo tie. Well, how you doing there, son? How's it going tonight? Just I'm just over here from Six Towers, just looking to kind of see what the Silver Stag has to offer in the game's chance. You having a good evening?
Bradford.
Yes.
My name's Bradford Dallas, but folks call me Brad. And you look like a folk, so you can call me Brad.
Hey, Brad. I'm Oliver.
Oliver, what a wonderful name. Now, I once had an uncle named Oliver. I never really kept in touch with him, so that's a shame. But you know what? You don't remind me of him one bit. You have too much hair on your head. You're far too tall. Oh my goodness, you're much taller than I thought you were. Okay, so you know how this game is played? Like, I got a bunch of face cards in my hand. Is that good or is that bad? Should I? And so he starts. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's pretty good. How about we have a game ourselves?
Okay. So like he's constantly throughout the night just asking you questions like as if you're trying to he's either like the greatest like actor in the world, like as he's luring you into a false sense of security and then he's going to win me at the end of the night, or he's an absolute idiot and has no idea how to play, but he's got a lot of money and he keeps like raising antes, raising bets, etc. All right, so why don't we roll for your reduction. So what's your lowest attribute?
Prowess.
Prowess with 1. Okay. Roll a d6 then. Oh dear.
Oh man, I got a 1.
Wow.
Oh dear. Okay. That's no good. We do have 1 extra coin sitting out there, I think, that because you got 2 in the very beginning, if you want to try to bump that up a tier. So basically 1 to 3 or a 4 to 5 is essentially what it would be.
So it becomes a 4 if I bump it up?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I'm treating it. Fortune roll is like, it's not really a fortune roll. It's a little different as like because it's more like a resistance roll where the actual number matters. But if it's relative to tier, 1 to 3 is a tier, 4 to 5 is a tier, and then 6 is a tier, and then crits are a tier. So we'll move it to like a 4 or a 5 if you want to spend a coin to sort of increase it. Because right now, you start looking at your pile, you start looking over at Brad's pile, and that's interesting. Brad's pile is just a wee bit bigger than yours. I wonder, wait a second. Sometimes if you don't see the mark when you sit down, maybe you are the mark. So do you want to burn that extra coin?
Yeah.
To buy back into the game? Take another run at it?
Yeah, just maybe I'm unlucky. I gotta keep going at this. So I'll spend some more. Gotta get this stress off me.
All right, so I'm okay. All right, go ahead and take. I rolled a 1 to. I was gonna do 1 to 3. It's a 4. 4 to 6. It's a 5. So take a 4. So take 4 points of stress back. Okay. All right. You make out.
Move them off the sheet.
How to actually use it on the sheet?
I don't know.
Is it just to clear all and then just add back?
If you click one back, it'll remove.
Oh, okay. All right, perfect. Like what the not the closest one, the one that like nested behind. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you've gotten 4 of your stress back. You bought back into the game. You managed to win back a good chunk of your money. You really probably only at best break even for the night, but at the very least, like there's that sense of like at least you took him for some. Like you probably lost money to somebody else in the process, but you took him for something, and like no, you're not as like the confidence that you get back from it, right? This idea of like the release of like the stress of it all, but also like I know what I'm doing. Like this, we're fine, we're okay. All right. Then Ashley, you got another one?
I was thinking I was gonna train.
Okay. What do you want to train in?
I would like to train my insight a little bit, and I was thinking what I would do is I would go to my contact, Professor Nerix.
Okay. Gotcha. Which okay, makes sense. Professor Nerix, is he a ghost or is he a professor of ghosts?
It just says a professor ghost.
A professor ghost. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay.
So I believe he himself is a ghost.
All right. Okay. Why don't we say, see, I'm going to throw this idea out and you tell me if you think this is cool. Charter Hall University, right? That's one of the colleges, academies around here. I think the other one's the military one, so I think Charter Hall probably makes more sense.
I have my ghost key.
Maybe there was some kind of accident years past, maybe in a chemistry, an alchemy lab or lecture hall where they were messing around with spark, kind of giving, maybe a bunch of kids, in one of the class, some of the students are messing around with it, and it caused like this kind of crazy explosion, and in doing so, it killed several students and faculty and stuff like that, and while most of them eventually went feral, or were easily absconded by like the spirit wardens, we'll say your professor somehow managed to elude spirit warden capture and still periodically roams the halls of the rebuilt lecture hall. And so what does he look like when you see him?
It's kind of very similar to like Harry Potter-esque, where like they don't have a lower half.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But no.
We're gonna get sued.
You think so? No.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
they're
being a
more.
brat.
He's more grim, though. So like, if he was like bleeding when he died, he's still actively bleeding in death, kind of thing.
Okay.
So he has like shards of glass that like pucker his skin.
Now, is he like a blue ghosty? Is he illuminated, or does he look more like is he like corporeal with maybe like some kind of illumination or aura about him? What do you think?
Yeah, it's probably kind of like misty.
Melissa says he's a snot bubble. That's a call out to our Ultraviolet
Ew.
Grasslands game where our friend Chuck from the Defenders of Cobalt, he plays a ghost basically, and
he's a snot bubble.
And he manifests by being a snot bubble. There you go. Okay. All right, cool. So we've got shards of glass, not fully blue ghosty, but a little bit, kind of like a middle groundish type of thing. Okay.
Yeah, kind of gray.
When you arrive, he is kind of off in sort of the ruins of this one area that was kind of destroyed, not yet rebuilt. as building supplies are difficult to come by. And you can see that he's very much experimenting with something. Like he's got his own, like there's an actual alchemical set. He's constantly struggling because sometimes he can move things, sometimes he can't. Like there's an inconsistency to like his corpore, like what kind of influence he has on the physical world, but he sometimes does and he sometimes doesn't. He's sort of constantly vacillating, and it's a concentration that's necessary. But what do you ask of him?
I just ask if, because he has like this table set aside that just has just notes, and some of it like obviously way above me and I don't understand it, but he does have like a stack set aside of like things that are more my level, and I ask if I can just do some studying.
Okay. When he sees you, he's like, yeah, and like this is he can communicate, but the communication is always sort of difficult as it's kind of trying to come through the veil, because it really, I think ghosts are like, I can't remember this is canon for Duskfall or just maybe for the stream I was watching one time, like the idea of it like
It's
limiting
like
who they can communicate with. Yeah, but you kind of get like maybe they're just like, my office hours are not until the quarter bell, which is absolutely preposterous, but I suppose as better as the alternative, which is a lack of curiosity and intellectual development. So yeah, have at them. So, okay.
And like in exchange, like once he starts to become less corporeal, I offer to like help continue what he's doing to like sweeten the deal.
Okay, fair enough. I think that sounds good. You get a nice little kind of push and play. All right. So go ahead and take your XP.
Sweet.
In insight, you said. Perfect.
Yep.
And then Uma, last of the free actions.
Clear Vice. I am going to the Golden Plum.
Golden Plum. That's over in, is that Six Towers?
Yes, it is.
All right, so we're in Six Towers. Okay, Golden Plum is, let's see, what's the name of your vice dealer? What's the proprietor of the Golden Plum?
Chef Roselle.
Chef Roselle. Tell me about Chef Roselle.
She is kind of really taking advantage of, kind of how Six Towers has kind of fallen off in recent years. But she is known for finding access to kind of different ingredients. And so that's why I've been going there, and I will definitely pay her to kind of try to bring in some new items on the menu. So it's kind of a this is definitely her thing, and it's not just pudding in sort of the dessert sense, but also like savory, like bread pudding varieties and whatnot.
Yeah. And she still has just an immense reputation across the city of Tasman, not just the district, the entire city. And honestly, if not for her and her reputation, it's very unlikely that the Golden Plum would see any real visitation from only those probably within the local areas, especially since Six Towers is a very kind of a scattered reputation. Streets are a little bit more haunted than some of the other districts. Ghosts are a little bit more ever present, to the point where it kind of probably scares people away. But that ghost plum is just so delicious, and her work is so wonderful. And she's very friendly as well, and welcoming to anyone who shows, including yourself. You are a very good customer after all. You wander in, and you can see. I'm imagining maybe like she has like her own, like these very grandiose setups, like of sort of just not just like the food tasting well, but looking good, right? Like the displays, the setups and stuff, like these little kind of glass cake canisters where you can see pastries of questionable sourcing, but it's nonetheless somehow delicious, despite, like everyone else is using the same ingredients, but somehow her stuff just tastes better. Golden Plum is a beating heart of Six Towers, and when you arrive, it's a very busy time. It always is busy here. Doesn't matter. The food is that good. What would you say is, what do you indulge in? What kind of food is for offer tonight?
I would say that she kind of just gets an assortment of kind of the puddings, and that's sort of her problem, is that she doesn't really kind of take food in the order of a meal that you would expect. It's sort of just
The essence of flavor. Nice.
You get like a pudding charcuterie board.
Well,
kind
it
of
makes
thing.
perfect sense because there
Basically,
is
yeah.
there is a pudding bar here, where there's like 32 different flavors of pudding, very much like a salad bar. You can kind of go through, get your puddings, mix puddings, toppings for puddings and such. There is definitely a sneeze guard and stuff, so you can collect it with some safety. But yeah, there's a couple dozen different flavors of pudding. Some of them are variations on themselves. Some of them are very creative. Then there's your standard flavors here and there. I know you've done your research.
Yeah, there's lots of mushroom and eel is, kind of the standard ones that kind of come in bulk. But occasionally there are also the ones that aren't in the bar.
Sure. Now, is anyone going with you? Do you have any friends that are coming with you and helping you to indulge in this vice?
No, this is definitely a solo.
This is me time. Okay.
Yeah.
You get
And it's
a
kind of
small table by a window and just
Yes.
Uma's time. Okay.
Yep.
Put on a little bib of the golden plum and just
Oh gosh.
yeah, I think it's wonderful. It sounds lovely. Okay. And maybe there's a little music going on. Someone's playing like the violin somewhere as you down your various puddings. Okay. You want to roll your lowest attribute?
Yes, which I realized I might actually overindulge because I realized that I rolled 2 because that's my lowest, and I have 8 stress. So
Well, I mean, like average roll of 2 dice is 2d6. I think is a 7. So I think as long as you stay average or below, you're okay.
we'll find out.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, 7.
What did I just say? What did I just say? I just said 7.
You
Okay.
take the total, or you just take the highest one?
Yeah, you take the
that's right.
highest actually.
That's
yeah,
right.
good. Thank you for mentioning that. So 5 stress. 5 stress.
Okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm down to 3 stress.
All right, let's take a look then, because one of the things you're allowed to do as well is if anybody wanted to do additional, kind of additional actions or downtime activities, you can burn coin to do so. Does anybody? So there's I'm looking at 4 coin in the stash for the gutter witches. I think have all of you spent your individual coins?
Yes.
Yes.
I have. Yeah.
Ashley has long spent like a bunch of coins. 2 from Toll to Twitch, 1 from yourself, I believe, and then Melissa, did you spend any?
I didn't just now, but I had to spend a coin during the mission that we did, so I
Okay.
kind of wasn't sure how that worked. If like this is
Okay.
a new coin or not.
We'll mark that as like basically a burnt coin. So you have like your coin that you would have gotten individually from the from the score you kind of gave over.
Got it.
Okay, so then there are still 4 coins left for the gutter witches. Anybody want to take additional downtime activities?
I think we should, because we can only hold 4 unless we like get a vault or something, right?
That's correct, yeah. And that would require you to get a little bit more crew XP to be able to get that kind of upgrade and everything.
What about one of us does Burns one to start the long-term project for the ship? Or is that too soon?
No, not too soon
I
at
can
all.
get it started like right after I get the papers. Be like, start this long-term project of getting this boat unrecognizable,
Okay.
anew.
So the long-term project is basically to renovate to renovate the boat in such a way to make it unrecognizable, not just by paperwork, but now by just physical sight.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna we'll make that yeah. Okay, we'll make it like a 6. Yeah, probably a 6. 6 is like the average size, so I'm just gonna go with average until I kind of get a feel for it.
How many
okay.
do we want to burn? Do we want to burn 2?
Well, let's like kind of walk through then how the long-term project works. So
Okay.
basically, you describe what your character is doing to advance this project clock, and then you roll an action. So this is just like we were in a score. You say what you're doing, and you roll, your action that you want to roll relative to like what you did, right? And then based upon your highest die, you fill a certain number of segments. So on a 1 to 3. If you roll that, if that's your best die, you get 1 segment filled. On a 4 to 5, you get 2 seconds filled. On a 6, you get 3 segments filled. And on a critical, you get 5 segments. And don't forget, you still have extra coin where you can bump those up. And you can also do things like... if you think there's somebody you have that might, in your contacts or friends or something like that could help you, you could potentially get an extra die as well. So, what is Oliver Cobb doing, do you think, to try to get this boat more in, out of the woods in terms of like it being recognizable?
I think he'll just consort with some connections. Anybody he can get a hold of.
Okay.
Just hire some guy, or crew, some people.
Okay. So yeah, the docks themselves, you could probably head over to the district of the docks and see if there's any boat workers about. Obviously, it seems like one of the complications here that could potentially arise is if the wrong people catch wind of this, they might already have connections to the hive of some kind. But overall, you spend some time trying to find a person who can do boat renovations, but is willing to do so without too many questions, right? Like, kind of set things up, maybe even make some upgrades, add a couple extra smuggling compartments, considering what y'all are going to do this for, that kind of thing. Okay, so roll your consort then.
My third one.
You are not rolling well tonight. Okay, so don't worry. It's still going to fill up a slice. It's still going to fill up one chunk of it. It's just, and you can also burn a coin if you wanted to bump it up to the next tier, which means you would get 2 of the slices filled. But it's your call. So you spent 1 coin just to do this action, which means there's now 3 coins left for the crew. What do you think? The rest of you can talk too, and it's all kind of okay. You good with this?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Get that 1 slice.
All right. So we got the 1 slice. We've used the 1 coin. There's still 3 coins left. 3 coins left. You don't have to use them all. It's up to you all.
I was thinking one of the other things we could do is establish a contact, like make a new friend or something.
Okay. Also would probably be a project.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
If you guys want to do that.
Sure.
I have Anya as a contact. She's in the blue coats. I don't know if that's something we would want.
A blue coat contact. That would be very useful.
That'd be pretty good
Yeah.
because our water level's already
Yeah.
at 1.
Yeah, with our heat being what it is.
Yeah, or I could try and reduce heat.
Oh yeah, that's another thing you could potentially do as well.
Would you reduce from the 1 level, or is it only the heat bar?
Wanted level is something different. That's I think that has to do with like someone has
our
to go to
heat-
prison and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Your
our
heat's only
heat
at
level's
1.
only
Yeah,
at
your heat's
1,
technically
so we're
at
not going to
1.
do that.
Yeah, I don't think clearing it down takes away the wanted level. I think there's something else that you have to do to the wanted level.
Yeah.
So let's do the blue coat contact.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, you know her enough to know that she's a person who is definitely on the take. This is not a very ethical person, and she has no problem taking money to look the other way on certain activities. So she wants to take. So she knows definitely the idea of kind of bribing her. She definitely needs to take money. But how would you go about trying? I'm gonna make this a 6 slice clock. It's mainly because I like kind of putting it in the middle on the average until I know better.
Yeah.
So I have a better feel. So how would you go about trying to convince her to make your relationship a little more permanent?
I kind of want to attune to her to make her more amicable to me. And kind of just make her agree, like, yeah, this is what we're doing.
Okay. So mind control. Got it.
Yeah.
You are
Ooh.
evil, Ashley. All the mind control. What you do. Mind control is an evil spell for villains. Ashley's the villain of the story. Okay, so sure. So you meet again. You get the kid to run the another one of the kid runners that are sitting outside of the blue coat.
Yeah.
And you know that she is specifically stationed within Night Market, so she's not actually in the precinct of Silkshore. But you do know that she is somebody who can be reached. I
take her to the bar or to the Vale, and so like my dancing to a tune isn't as out of place because we're like dancing together, doing drugs together in the Vale. As I attempt to attune to her, if you're cool with that.
I think maybe you're attuning her to try to entice her to go do those things, right? And then that would then kind of grease the wheels, right?
Yeah.
So otherwise, it's like she's just going clubbing and doing drugs with somebody she barely knows. Like, but if you attune her, you make her more receptive to that. So I think we just sort of do it backwards.
Okay.
But that's cool. I think that's cool, right?
Yeah.
All right, roll your attune. I mean, we can do Devil's Bargain. I think we can do Devil's Bargains and things like that. I don't see why not. Because it is an action roll, so there's no reason I don't think we can't do that. So, I think the Devil's Bargain, I would say, is that somebody else within the Bluecoats would probably catch wind of your relationship, or your attempts to sort of ease a relationship. Doesn't necessarily mean so it doesn't mean they're going to turn you in. It could mean they also maybe come calling at some point. Who knows? Yeah, but like somebody else is going to kind of catch wind. Maybe she has a partner who starts to like kind of get going to that. So I would probably start a clock, like a separate clock, in terms of like how long before like they also present.
Calling for a bargain or something.
So that would be my bargain if you wanted an extra die for the roll.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, or you can take okay, all right. So I'm going to make that a bigger clock, though. So I'm going to make it like an 8-slice clock because it doesn't seem fair to have that. Okay. All right. So we can... Okay, yeah. Or I might do them as competing clocks. I want to go back and read the competing clocks, but we'll do that.
So would you say that's position risky standard then?
Yeah, I don't see any reason to change it.
So I got a partial success.
Nice.
Okay. So your second tier, which would be 2 marks on the clock. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Very good. And that takes up one of your coins. So you guys should be down to 2 coins now.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to do another action?
I would like to do some crafting.
All right, excellent. That's a little different. So leeches, one of the things leeches can do, I mean, I think anyone to some degree can craft, but leeches specifically, I know they have like a lot of crafting and things that they can kind of dive into. What's your specialty, by the way? Like, what did you take for your, okay. So I believe you actually should have already started with one formula. Did you have an idea of what you wanted your formula to be?
So this is a clock that started, or one that I've already completed?
No, you start the game. If you picked, I'm pretty sure, because I actually also play the leech, and so I remember reading this. Is that
you begin
I'm
with
pretty
one
sure
special formula already known?
Yeah. So if you can't think of anything right now, don't worry about it. You can always think about it next week. Okay. So what are you looking to craft now?
What I am looking to do is kind of take one of the existing poisons, but make it a like one of the things, long-term goals. I'm trying to make things that are like a delayed effect. So that's what I'm trying to kind of craft, is kind of rework one of them so that it's got a little bit of a delayed effect to it.
Okay. Which one were you thinking? Because there's drown powder, which is that's a tier 3 and it gives you 2 doses. Eye blind, which is a tier 3, gives you 3 doses. And that causes blind, as you might imagine. Drowning would make a person feel like they have the sensation of drowning. Skullfire is a tier 3. You get 1 dose. Toxic fumes from overly heated Leviathan blood causes incapacitating migraines. And then there's standstill, which is tier 4 with 1 dose. And it's a powder that can cause temporary blindness.
I'll go with the migraine one.
Okay.
So I'll rework that one.
So you get, so the crafting roll, you get 1 dice, obviously, for each of your Tinker action dots.
1.
So it takes 1 downtime activity. You make a tinker roll to determine the quality level of the item you produce. The base quality level is equal to your crew's tier modified by the result of the roll. So the results are based on your
+1 result level to my roll because I'm an alchemist.
Yeah. Okay. So you're automatically, at the very least, are going to have a tier 1. So the GM sets a minimum quality level that must be achieved to craft the item based on the magnitude of the effect it produces. The GM uses magnitude as a guideline, blah, 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 blah.
And we did not do a workshop, so I don't get an added quality for that.
Mm-hmm. So you're trying to basically modify an item. So adding a feature or item function to an item is simpler than creating something new. You don't need to invent the special formula or plan. You just make a crafting roll. So the other thing is like the leech has access to certain... you basically can potentially just have access to certain poisons and potions like off the bat, and not all of them are like special. So some of them are just sort of like mundane. So you might want to take a look at what's on the mundane list and then try to modify one of those. That might make it easier.
Okay.
It's up to you. Just kind of throwing out an idea. I'm trying to vamp a bit while I change pages and get to the leech page. So the leech can do...
Look at the sample creations page too.
So drown powder, eye blind poison, and those are both on here. And stand still. Yeah, drown powder, eye blind poison, and stand still are on your list that you already have access to.
Okay.
So it looks
I'll
like
say Skullfire is the one that I'm working on then.
Skullfire is on here as well. Skullfire, stand still. I think they're all just on here. Okay. So I'm gonna say you're just trying to have it have a delayed effect. So you're just trying to make it so that it doesn't. So like you can put it in someone's, you can kind of inject it into somebody or put it in someone's food or whatever, leave, and so that you're not there when the effects take place. So to try to delay. I see what you're saying.
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm fine with it. It can be a long clock if it needs to be, because it's a general thing that I'm trying to figure out of like how to make anything kind of long time release.
Well, I think this is just modifying an item. Like you're doing modifying an item. Like you're taking the item that's existing and you're just trying to do it. So
okay. So I'll roll 1d6 because of my tinker, and then I'll get a +1 result level because of my alchemist ability.
Okay. Go ahead and roll. And oh wait, we should do like Devil's Bargain, stress, I think, like that, because it is an action roll, so I'm pretty sure you can still do that. So so if you can either like kind of push yourself to take 2 stress and take an extra die, I can give you a Devil's Bargain of the danger could be that the formula is going to, like, it's rare for this particular poison to work in that manner. And so the fact that this formula the signature is changing, that signature could eventually lead back to you at some point.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
I'll take that.
It could be like your calling card.
Yeah.
All right. So, and that's going to be, again, it's going to be a big clock. So you don't got to worry about it like immediately.
And is this a situation where I could do like a desperate position, or does that not really apply?
I think it's going to apply because in this case, like you're trying to modify a tier. Because what poison are you doing again?
The migraine one.
So that's the
Skullfire.
So that's a tier 3. Modifying is like at minimum like a +1 to it, which would make it a tier 4. So you need to get to tier 4. So you probably do want to trade position for effect, and if you get to great effect, then that would get you home. I think I'll say like that'll get you home.
So that I'm rolling a 0 dice modifier, position desperate, effect great.
No, you should get an extra.
You took the
die.
Devil's Bargain.
You
So
took
you
the
get
Devil's Bargain.
+1.
Okay, so I get a +1, and then desperate and great.
Okay, go for it.
Partial success. I got a 5.
Okay, all right. That's still good enough. Like that you succeeded. So you in fact are able to do it. So I'm gonna say the downside of this is pretty, like the complication is pretty simple. I'm ticking the clock. Like that's all I'm gonna do. So like I'm gonna start ticking the clock of like this becomes your signature calling card, and like You know, and then eventually at some point this could backfire on you, but not yet. So, okay. So that's another coin. So I think we have one left. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I think we should keep just one in case we need to bribe somebody in our next one or something.
All right. So then I think for the last thing we'll do tonight then is just sort of let's we got a couple minutes left here. Let's hash out like an idea for next score, right? So we'll say if we think about this, like this downtime is like a montage of several days or so, right? It's not just like 5 minutes or an hour or an afternoon. It's time, right? So you've been training, you've been going around, you've been keeping your ear to the ground for opportunities and such as they present themselves as you've made your travels. But you also know that you have this entire barge filled with product. Now, I'm gonna say that you've gone through the product, right? You've kind of inventoried, and some of like your workers and people have helped you with this, including the one guy that kind of was recruited as to be one of like the faceless members of your gang for now. One day maybe they get a face and a name and they become a cohort. We'll see. But you've noticed that there are essentially kind of three products in here. Two of them are pretty standard stuff. You got Black Lotus, you've got Dream Powder, or the ingredients to make such. But you find one other thing in here that's of note, and it was hidden away, and it was definitely not something that was like kind of out on the deck that people were pulling from. So either it wasn't just for anybody that was picking it up, maybe it was for a specific distributor. But you open it up, and it's this crate, and inside the crate are all these like clay pots, and inside there is something that there's like something in these clay pots that you all would recognize as being sort of useful to the various ghostly type figures that you've started to engage in your kind of ghost market contacts. So I'm going to ask you two questions then. One, as you start going through these clay pots, right? What would you say the product looks like? So think about it like cocaine powder, liquids. Is it like, beads? Is it rocks? Is it just essence floating around? Is it packs of like some kind of diluted or condensed like Leviathan blood? What would you say like the product actually looks like?
My first thought that came to my head was glue, like liquid glue.
Okay. So it's like it's literally in some sort of adhesive. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then the second question, and if you decide after hearing what the second question is to change the first, it's totally fine. Mm-hmm. The second question is, what does this product actually do? Why do these spirits actually want the product? Like, because remember, you're dealing with ghosts, like, and this is providing them something. Maybe you get something in return. Like, it's a whole separate economy. So you're providing them something. So, and this is that something, to a certain degree, right? Mm-hmm. What does it do?
Maybe this stuff helps them either go like undetected somehow through the city, or like pass through this like magic barrier stuff.
Okay. Or if it helps keep them corporal for longer.
Okay. So we'll say.
Like they don't.
All right. So corporeal. So we have two ideas: keeps them corporeal, and then Long's idea is it's like a masking agent. So maybe the spirit wardens and other types of ghost hunters, the gondoliers and such throughout the area, like it's harder for them to like. So when we think of it like glue, maybe it's almost like metaphorical in the idea, like Too Old to Twitch is saying in chat. It's like it helps like adhere them to the physical reality more, which allows them then to sort of
to blend in better.
To blend in. So kind of a mixing of both yours and Long's ideas. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That would be cool.
Okay, so as a masking agent, lets them stick to the physical plane and allows them to avoid. I love it. That sounds great. Okay, and then the next question is, what do we call it? What's the name for it? And clearly we got to go to Melissa for this.
Yeah.
There's two things everyone knows about Melissa. One, she cheats at board games. That's just, I mean, everyone knows that. It's part of the commands on our game. Exclamation point Melissa, you'll see. If it's in chat, it's true. And then the second thing is she loves naming things. Oh, I'm going to say the clay jars. I'm taking Arbelin's idea is that they're instead of it being ghost babies, I'm going to say the jars, let's say the clay jars are like literally like little kind of baby sculpture portrait thingies. That's what it looks like.
Fetuses, okay.
Well, I didn't want to go full fetus. I was just like a baby Buddha type of thing.
Okay.
And like
Got it.
you take okay, maybe this was weird because then you take the head off. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're constantly okay. This is okay, good intentions, but maybe
Open the belly.
yeah, baby. Oh god.
No.
I'm just gonna go ahead.
What
and stop
about
writing that down?
gutter water?
Gutter water. What about gutter glue or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that sound spiritually enough?
Well, let's see.
I had a dumb name.
What
I
is
want to
it?
hear Melissa's dumb
Yeah, let's
name.
hear it.
Spectre Stickum.
Spectre sticking.
That's it.
Oh god. I like the idea of incorporating Spectre.
Yeah, the Spectre's nice.
So,
I was looking for a glue synonym.
well, what else is there? There's paste, glue. I don't know. I'm gonna bring up some word hippo really quick.
There's
It's my
gum,
go-to
paste,
thesis
cement.
is-
Spectre cement.
So
Sealant.
sealant. Or we're looking for anchor, right? Because this is something that sort of anchors them in the physical world. So that's another thing we
Yeah.
can kind of look at. I don't know. We know it's Spectre something. Okay.
But we don't want it to be too on the nose, do we?
Can be. It can be whatever we want it to be, really. It's got to sound cool, though, right? Otherwise, no one's going to want it.
Could just be like Spectre sap. Like, we're not saying what it does, but it's
Sap's a cool
Ghost
idea. I like the idea of
related.
sap. Spectre sap. All right. Because we're up against it and Long's got to go soon, we're gonna say rough draft
Spectre sap.
is Spectre sap, but we're gonna continue to think about that and we'll figure that out next week. So do any of you guys have a specific idea of like what the crew would be interested in tackling next? Like what you would want what you would want to do as your next score? Do you have ideas for what the gutter witches would want to do next?
Maybe we want to try and sell this.
Okay. You just want to
Or are
sell
you guys
the
thinking
Spectre
something
sap?
else? Yeah.
You have a ton of product. You have a ton of normal, just your average run of the mill illicit product on your ship.
Right.
So there's that you can sell, and there's a ton of it too. Like you have quite a bit
Yeah.
of it, and it's hive product, right? So you also know that's kind of burning a hole in your pocket, so to speak. Like you want to probably get that out of your.
Yeah,
So that's,
I would
there's
say we
always,
definitely wanna get rid of
In
that.
general. Yeah.
okay. All right, so sell normal stuff. Okay.
I knew
All right.
Uma personally would want to try to break this stuff down and try to see like what it's made of to possibly try to like reproduce
Spectre
the thing
sap?
that we just found. Yeah.
That sounds like a long-term project.
Mhm.
If you want to burn that last coin to start a long-term project for this.
That would be using the the cruise coin.
Okay, we could do it later. We could do it next time.
Yeah,
Downtime.
maybe next time. Yeah.
All right. So I think the
Case we
general
work.
idea. Ashley crit fails a roll and Spectre saps the Ghost Leviathan.
Oh God.
Ghost
no.
Leviathan's not going
It's
nowhere.
just forever.
And it talks too. It's just like, I feel very good about myself. Time to destroy the world. You just like summon Cthulhu right into Duskfall. There you go. It's all stands up. He's like, ugh. Okay. I think that gives me enough to go on, and I'll get like a kind of a sales score in my head, and and we'll figure something else out. Okay. So let's call it for the night then. As we have gone through our downtime activities, we've learned a little bit more about each of the characters. We learned that Uma's got siblings that she doesn't much care for because she just literally put them in the line of fire. So now I can just do awful things to them.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we learned Oliver is not the greatest gambler, but he met a kindly, apparently Texan in Dustfall for some reason. I don't know why. Sethla Sethla doesn't like guys who have Sethla really only prefers guys with torsos. She doesn't really care for like the lower half of the body.
She likes Tarkosi and men.
Well, I'm just saying,
You know,
like,
the
because
weirder, the
Roland's
better.
got no Roland. We never see his legs because he might have a snake
I like
tail.
abs, okay? That's what Seth
Okay.
was about.
I don't really care for calves
I don't need
and
the
thighs. I
rest,
don't need
like-
the kneecap. I don't see the point of that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's close it down. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for throwing out some ideas. Thank you for the bits, Tool to Twitch. Definitely helped out Oliver, who was rolling crap tonight. We'll be back next week. So you can catch us next on Monday, where we're going to be playing Alien RPG by Free League. So we alternate on Mondays between Alien and Ultraviolet Grasslands. So this coming Monday, which is the 20th, is going to be an Alien Day. Next Friday, we're continuing Delta Green, Impossible Landscapes. We just started up part 3, so it's a good time to catch up if you want to take a look. And then we'll be back next Saturday playing more Blades in the Dark with our Gutter Witches. All of our stuff's over on YouTube. So if you're watching this later on YouTube, thanks for doing so, sub, and all that kind of wonderful things. Come check us out live one of these days. And that's it. So thanks to everyone hanging out. I'll go ahead and put us on the end screen. I'll find a kind of a raid for us if you all want to keep watching some cool tabletop role-playing game stuff here on Saturday. So good night, everybody.
Bye.
Later.